really the BBC and ITV and people had pretty much the monopoly on television pictures. But no, you know, you go out at a high age, if you know how to use it, you've got broadcast quality footage. And it's only logical that they should be putting strategies in place to deal with what they must perceive as being a threat to the way in which they are used to operating.
I asked Thames Valley Police Press Office what written guidelines existed for officers when dealing with the media.
Do you think written guidelines should exist for officers on the ground when dealing with members of the press?
Well, they do exist, but you know, in here, you know, officers can come to us, you know, if they have any queries.
Right. Would it be possible to see the written guidelines?
They're an internal document.
Right. Does that mean that we would be able to see them or not?
That's an internal document.
Right. So written guidelines for officers on how to deal with members of press aren't available to those members of the press.
I later discovered that the police have also been using court orders to seize photographs and video footage. When photographer Robert Todd photographed hunt saboteurs at a hunt in Hampshire, the last thing he expected was an early morning visit a few days later.
Well, they turned up with a normal search warrant. Basically, it intimidates you into handing over the material because the wording on the warrant basically meant that they could confiscate all my animal rights footage, any equipment used to store that footage, which is obviously my computers, and also any equipment used to take that footage, which would have basically put me out of business until I could obtain it back from the courts.
I don't want to spend hours and a lot of money getting pictures in order to have the police walk off with them as evidence. It's never happened to me. I've managed to keep my pictures to myself on every occasion that I've been arrested. Whether I hide them, pass them to colleagues, manage to get them out of the country, all these things at various times.
During the course of my investigation, I was also singled out for harassment by certain officers from Scotland Yard.
Is there anything that you're trying to hide, by any chance?
Not at all.
Well, it just seems that whichever way I move, you seem to move in front of me to stop me from filming. So why are you stopping me filming? Excuse me.
Turn the camera off, okay, otherwise I'll arrest you. Have you got that?
For what?
Breaching Hyde Park regulations.
You cannot arrest me
okay?
for breaching Hyde Park regulations. I have every right to film
You're committing an offence at the moment.
I'm an accredited journalist. I have every right to film.
You are not allowed to film in a Hyde Park without written authority from the Secretary of State. I
am allowed to.
Yeah. Have you got permission? Have you got that on you?
Yes, I have, yes.
Right, let's see it. When I'm dealing with this, I'll come back to you, okay?
Fine.
The Association of Chief Police Officers also refused undercurrents a filmed interview. However, I still managed to question ACPO media spokesperson Tim Marney about the official police line.
Do you have any idea as to why all of a sudden it's starting to go wrong?
What is the evidence for the statement that it's, to quote, starting to go wrong?
The evidence that we've collected from various journalists that have found themselves arrested and then released without charge after deadlines have disappeared.
That wasn't the question, of course. The question was, do police forces set out to manipulate and control the media? And the answer is there's no intent to do that, no.
2 weeks later, at this protest in London, I was the only journalist present. Again, I was the only person to be arrested.
Here you are? Yeah, I'm a member of the press, yeah.
You are? What part?
I'm a freelance journalist.
So you're not really a member of the press, are you?
I'm a member of the press, yes.
Freelance journalist. And you're just doing this?
Sorry?
Switch the camera off.
Can I ask you why you want me to turn my camera off?
Right, you're filming me now, aren't you? It's my camera.
While I was filming, I was assaulted and arrested by a police officer for breach of the peace. Although I managed to film both my assault and my own arrest, while I was in custody, the police erased that part of the tape. However, they forgot to switch the microphone off when they did this. This is the first hard piece of evidence we have that police are erasing tapes and destroying evidence.
It's a warning. It's a way of putting off journalists from going to these events.
And the first journalists to put off the easiest targets are the freelancers, because you are not on a clear contract.
The question is it the police that have been getting worse, or have they always been like that? And is it simply the reporting that's getting more incisive and more critical? And I suspect that it's at least part of the latter.
There seems to be no real guts in newspaper editors, or magazine editors for that matter, to continue to protect the rights of individual journalists. And to be honest, most of the public seem to be much more interested in the fantasy world of the soaps than the real world of actually what's happening.